Welcome everyone. And now I will officially introduce you to your today's guest, Juliette Karaman. Hi, Juliette.
Hi, lovely. Thank you for having me. I'm actually in the UK, so I'm also, it's late afternoon for me.
Oh, you're in the UK. That's cool.
Yeah.
Where in UK are you?
I'm just near a place called Tunbridge Wells in the countryside.
Wow. Okay, I
Yeah.
don't know that place, but well, UK is cool. I love UK. So first official, and then we'll start talking. So Juliette Karaman is a coach, teacher, mentor, and writer on relationships, trauma, healing, sex, and intimacy. Very rich credentials from diploma in psychology, special needs education to tantra teaching, and sexology body worker training. Juliette herself is a trauma survivor, so is deeply attuned to what her clients go through and has them understand the connection between their psyche and their bodies. She specializes in how to move on from sexual trauma to rebuild an intimate relationship again, guiding her clients through carefully curated processes that restore trust and communication. Merging her decade of conscious sexuality with the ability to hold deep space has her clients regain confidence in their bodies, psyche, and relationships to themselves. She's also a mother of four little people, of four children. And I think it's actually a great thing. I also, in fact, I also add that I'm a mother to my official bio. Somehow I think it's a very significant thing for a woman. So the topic that we have announced is actually emotional intelligence, how to regain the confidence and thrive in life. But as I said, I wouldn't have imagined we could go even more dramatic, because I did read quite a lot about trauma and sexual trauma, and I did want to touch upon that, because I could start soft and I can ask, where do we lose confidence? Or we could go straight into that, and I could ask actually, with your experience, because you work with people, you have a degree in psychology, so you work as a professional with people. What's your impression? Does every single one of us have some kind of trauma to get over? And I would like eventually to actually touch upon sexual trauma, because I think it's a topic that we don't discuss very often.
It's a big one, right? So thank you for that. So for me, how I define trauma is something that happened to us, which was too fast. It happened too suddenly and too fast for our body or mind to actually process. So in answer to your question, yes, we've all had trauma. Now, it may not get stuck into the body, or it might not keep us back, because, seeing or having a parent die or a grandparent, all of those are traumatic experiences. But it's only when it's happened too fast for us to actually be able to process it, that's when it loads in, and that's when it can hold you back from things. And so often I see with clients who have been together for 25 years and the sexuality has kind of like, the intimacy has kind of like fizzled. Then if we dig a bit deeper, often there has been some kind of traumatic event. It might have just been the way that someone looks at you or has looked at you in the past, or the way that, cat whistles, these builders on the street, and they're like, hey, good looking, and they start whistling at you, and you're like, oh, that doesn't feel good. So somehow you had that then feel in your body that you felt unsafe, or it would take you back to a time that you were unsafe and that you had something happen.
But I want to go back to sexual trauma, and I want to actually start with a definition. You just mentioned that a little bit, but I want to understand what makes something a sexual trauma. As a background, just if I take my personal experience, I guess a certain cat whistle can be traumatic, especially if it comes from someone that I'm repulsed by. But some kind of attention is something that I actually don't mind or actually enjoy. And I even will go as far, and maybe a little bit risky, as to say that for some people, maybe the lack of attention may be the traumatic experience. And I know that also to some degree personally, because, I've been in this world for a long time, and I know that the quality and the amount of attention does change over time as you age. So how do we define trauma, especially sexual trauma?
I mean, it's a big topic, right? So sexuality could just be, sexual trauma could just be being touched somewhere inappropriately. So for me, I grew up and I had an uncle. Yeah, we called everyone uncle when they were, actually he was an uncle, I think, or second cousin of my parents or something, who would always touch me right next to my breasts. And as I was growing up, I had very big breasts. And I didn't think anything of it. And at one point I told my mom when I think I was 9, I said, hey mom, yeah, it just feels a little bit uncomfortable. Uncle thingy is always touching me. She's like, oh, this is what happened to me too. So don't think anything of it. So first of all, that's generational, right? Where it's like that happened to her. So then very often it happens to the children as well. When I got into personal development, I remembered that I was abused sexually at a young age. And then but that didn't come until much later, but that I was date raped by 5 guys in Spain. I had completely buried it for 20 years in my marriage. And it's only after we got divorced and that I started going into this much more that I remembered, and that my body actually allowed myself to remember it, because I had the 4 kids to take care of, I had a house to run. And it's just like, you build up these walls. And you just kind of think, oh no, nothing happened. But it was when someone came behind me and just softly touched me there, but my body just had a remembrance. I went straight into that moment, and it started shaking, and I started remembering everything, wailing, crying. But what happens is that the psyche actually stops you from remembering if you're not ready. In a way, it's beautiful, right?
So you kind of, initially you were not traumatized by that, but the trauma was there and it stayed somewhere in your body, and it came up later when you were ready to process it. Yes.
I think there's so much shame by being raped, right? I mean, it's a big topic, this. There's so much shame that we women kind of, and men as well, that get raped. It's like we shove it away, we don't want to look at it.
So just because you don't think it a big deal or you forgot it, it doesn't mean it hasn't left a traumatic experience on you.
Completely. I think for me, I remember my girlfriend and I, we both happened at the same time in this party. We climbed out of a window, we got out of there, got beaten black and blue, walked back to whatever house we were living in Spain, and we never spoke about it again. There was such deep shame. It's like maybe we called it in somehow. And that then is a belief that you take with you. Maybe I have called this in somehow. So it was easier to kind of like shove it under the rug, not think about it, and continue life. And it wasn't until 20 years later that I remembered. And I see this with so many clients.
I see. So it's such a deep thing that it's kind of hard to move from there. So what do you do if you've had a long life and a lot of experiences, and some of them are in process? Do you go digging into that, or do you start dealing with that when you realize that somehow prevents you from enjoying your life?
I think it's really when people start looking for more enjoyment, right? Or also you start looking at, why am I drinking a little bit too much? Maybe why am I eating too much sugar? Why am I shopping too much? It's kind of like, why am I keeping so busy? Is it to kind of like be kept busy so that I don't look at internally what's going on in my life, where I might not be 100% happy? And that's usually, a lot of my clients have lived a little bit of a life, right? They're in their 40s, 50s. I do have some much younger clients as well, but they're like, yes, we've had a good life, we have good children, there's ticked all the boxes, but we're missing some intimacy. And it's like, so what's happened? Let's actually just like, let's be curious about it, because for so many years you've had to like produce money and take your kids to school and make sure that they got into their universities and on and on and on, that you haven't had much time or attention to put it on you. yourself. And it's being in communities that you actually start noticing when one woman says something like, this has happened to me, or a man, or whatever gender you are, whatever you call yourself, that might actually bring something up, and you're like, oh, I remember a part, and just something starts buzzing inside you, or something starts like thinking, like a little click, right? Like the penny drops. It's like, oh, I might have had something that happened to me.
Mm-hmm. So, sorry guys, if I somehow very drawn to discussing sexuality right now, but we'll go into confidence, purely confidence later. I want to ask what, since I love definitions, what would be like a definition of healthy confidence, sexual confidence? Because I think this is also not a very clear topic. Well, we don't talk about sexuality a lot. We talk a little bit in certain contexts. So, you know, on the outside, it may seem that just having plenty of sexual partners or attention is kind of the confidence, but I don't think it's as simple as that. I really don't believe it's as simple as that.
And it's so funny, right? Because plenty of partners and confidence, that is often where people are like, oh, but I've had lots of girlfriends, you know, the man will say. And when he's like, yeah, he's a stud. But then if a woman that says like, oh, I've had lots of partners, they're like, a little bit slutty.
That's
you know, so
so
there's
true.
a stigma there, right?
Yeah.
So there's that stigma, and it depends on, obviously, on completely on your cultural background, who you were brought up with.
Mm-hmm.
But the confidence is really, it's like knowing your body, knowing yourself. What kind of touch do you like? And it doesn't have to be sexual. Just, you know, do you like really soft touch? Like, do you like not even touch, but like hovering across the body? Do you like a little bit more massagey? And so often that is the question, what do you like? And the amount of people that have come to me is like, I don't know what I like, but I don't like that. Whatever we're doing, I don't like. It's like, okay, so start exploring. And then the questions to ask each other, and then to be in a couple, it's like, hey, when I do this touch to you, do you like that? Do you not like it? How can I make it better?
Mm-hmm. But I guess there's another aspect to the confidence, because if you know what you like, it's your relationship with you in a way, like you know what you like, you understand, but communicating that like,
yes,
that dislike.
That's a big piece, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the first thing is finding out yourself, right? What you like. And then the second piece is, how can you communicate it in a way that your partner understands? So it's not like, hey, no, you're doing that wrong, I want you to do it this way. But it's just like, love that you're touching me. Can we try this? And it might not work. I might not like it, but can we just spend the next 15 minutes on trying different kind of touch? And it's really about being open, saying, hey, listen, can we have 15 minutes? Can we block out 15 minutes where we put away our phones? The kids aren't going to interrupt us, and we're going to go deep into us. And oftentimes what I will do, or what I'll teach my clients, is start with 3 prompts. This is what I love about you. This is what I fear about our relationship, or these are the fears that I have about us or about me. And this is what I desire. And when you're already that honest and you're offering that, the other person is going to, you know, obviously then reflect back, do 3 as well. And then when you start from that basis, there's so much willingness, right? Because willingness is really the first step.
So is it possible to be a confident partner and coexist healthily with a not so confident partner, or the other way around?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. And oftentimes that's what you'll see. You have one very confident partner and one maybe not so. But all it takes is one partner really to make a decision saying, hey, I really would like, you know, for us to take a bit more time together, for us to explore each other more.
So I don't know the statistics, of course, about sexual confidence, but I know a little bit, well, it's not scientific statistic, but I've seen somewhere with the corner of my eye. So I remember that the percentage of women who get an orgasm in a sexual intercourse is not incredibly high. Is that a sign of our lack of confidence, actually, in well, sexual confidence?
It's interesting because there are so many different orgasms, right? There's a clitoral
Yeah.
orgasm, there's cervical, there are loads of different ones. And from penetration alone, often women, very few women actually climax. Also, females need 40 minutes to get stimulated to really before penetration feels comfortable. So that means 14 minutes of foreplay, of kissing, of a lubricant, of really getting aroused, because that is when everything starts juicing, and that's when the whole erectile tissue just becomes more engorged, both for men and for females. So I don't think that has anything to do with confidence. You can be very confident in your sexuality and not orgasm, not climax, not have any climax, but still have beautiful pleasure. And you know, I know enough people in the tantra world that actually don't ever climax because they feel it's a losing of their energy. So they always want to contain that, but they have beautiful exchanges, they have heartfelt exchanges, etc.
There are some comments, actually, guys. If you want to leave a comment, I prefer you leaving emojis and your questions for my wonderful guest, Juliette. I prefer that you leave in Q&A, so we can actually bring you up if you want to, to show your face as well as your voice. But Juliette, back to orgasm not being necessarily a sign of, or lack of one is not necessarily the sign that you lack confidence.
Completely. So orgasm is really for is like the goal for a lot of people. But for a lot of people that are, say, much more energetic, and they can feel the energy of someone else, they can almost have like energetic orgasms, out of body orgasms. But it doesn't mean that it's a vaginal, it doesn't even need to have any intercourse. But you have all that energy moving through your body, and you're reaching more ecstatic states by actually not even having penetration. So that's why, for me, sexuality doesn't have to be penetration at all.
But not many people actually practice tantra or have learned tantra. So if we're looking at the regular people outside on the street, then the lack of orgasm doesn't necessarily come from them wanting to contain the energy, or from.
No, that's true. And that's very often what's you know, is the aim. It's like, okay, can we both climax together? Because that's the aim. Then we've had great sex, right? I mean, most people are like, oh, that was amazing. We climaxed together, we came. And once you can leave that behind, that expectation of having to climax, then you can really spend, even if you put a timer on, 10 minutes together, really putting beautiful attention on each other. And even if it's a massaging your partner, you don't even have to go to near the sexual parts if you don't want to. But spending that time together, getting into each other.
It's so funny, somebody's asking what is tantra. Actually, I did want to move to the topic that we have announced, actually, but
yes, let's do that.
Maybe to close up sexual confidence, because I just find it fascinating. It's not the topic we talk about a lot. Maybe to close up this topic, Juliette, you could explain what is tantra, and I'll prepare for the more serious conversation.
Tantra is it's a sexuality practice. It's an old Indian practice, if I can say it that way, where it's all about the energetics, about how two people are with each other. So we have the masculine, we have the feminine, but we have that all inside of each other as well. And so there are a lot of, we use breath a lot, different kind of breaths to really like tap into the body. There's a lot of eye gazing, and there's just a lot of energy work. So it doesn't have to actually use any intercourse, any touching inside. You can obviously use, but it's so much more. It just encompasses a whole way of life, of being respectful of the other person in front of you. I mean, like in a nutshell, I mean, I could talk, this is like a topic that's so large that you can speak about it for months.
I know, and I'm planning to evilly drop it right now because the topic that we announced was emotional intelligence and finding
Yes.
confidence in life. So I want to get back to confidence
Right.
apart from sexual confidence, although I think that our sexual confidence does have a huge impact on our confidence in other areas of life. I have this
It does.
feeling, again, not substantiated by any science. But so in the way the topic was phrased, it has emotional intelligence as like the core of finding confidence. So the question that I have is how much of our confidence actually depends on our ability to process our emotions properly versus our experiences, because a more simple understanding of confidence is like, you know, someone who goes out, challenges themselves, gets a lot of positive experiences and wins and gains confidence this way. And so it's all like action based rather than feeling based. So what's
Mm.
the place of emotional intelligence in actually well, increasing your confidence, I guess?
I think it's massively, massively important. So if we think back, all of us were born, yeah, little babies, little kitties were born with perfection, right? We weren't scared of anything. We were just like out there, curious, super confident as babies, right? And then the outside influences, either your parents and everyone else, kind of loads things into the system, into yourself. Beliefs are put in until the age of 6. Kids are completely transparent, and they're like a sponge. They take up all the beliefs. So if you hear, yeah, kids should be seen but not heard, you know, so they start becoming a bit more quiet. It's like, oh, or you'll get a little look from someone, oh, you're having that next cookie. It's like, you're a little bit greedy, and you just take it in. It's like, oh, I must be greedy. So it's all these beliefs that we have just basically loaded into us as of the age of 6. And that's when we start kind of making connections a little bit more. So if you think about any experience, is if you really bring it down to the basics, is an image, a thought, a body sensation, and an emotion. So the feeling that you have is both an emotion and it's a body sensation, something that you feel in your body. So if you think back to a certain thought, if you think back to you as a child and one of your parents might have said, you were in the supermarket saying, Mommy, can I have this? It's like, no, can't afford that, or you're too greedy.
Mm-hmm.
So what is then that thought? It's like, oh, I'm greedy, so I'm not good enough. And the emotion that usually follows that is like sadness or a bit guilt, maybe. And that loads in the body somewhere, and there's often a tightness, a contraction. And that's what happens to us. Now, the more that we can start becoming aware of these patterns that we're holding, and we're holding a lot of them, it becomes like every time it's like peeling back a layer of the onion. It's like, oh, is that actually true? Was that mine? Am I greedy? Or was it more like, yeah, if my parents had all the money in the world, they would have said, absolutely, have a second one, have a third one. But at that moment, they, couldn't afford that. And then I took on the belief that I was greedy. But with emotional intelligence and with using some of these techniques that I teach, you really get through that. And then you're like, oh, there's actually no problem here.
Mm-hmm. So do you undo the damage backwards, or do you use these techniques for the rest of your life?
The funny thing is, I think you will use a lot of them for the rest of your life, but the thing is, it goes quicker. So in the beginning, you're like, oh my God, I've got so many things to work on and nothing, I'm never going to get rid of this, and I'm just broken. Well, first of all, no one's broken. You're all perfect. You're not broken. No one needs to be fixed. But everyone has a desire to be more fully themselves, right? To be confident, to be that person that they kind of want to be. But
That's the interesting thing, because you say nobody needs to be fixed, and I actually agree with that. Yet when we go to personal growth, very often we look back and we see, okay, when was that time when I got broken actually, and we want to fix something in the back. So
So
how does
no,
it?
but I completely hear that as well, right? Because we're like, oh my God, this is wrong with you. That's what's wrong with me. And I just want to say nothing's wrong with you. Everyone has that.
Mm,
And now becoming aware of it, that's your massive step towards self-love. That's your step towards self-confidence, because you're starting to become aware of these patterns. And then instead of your mind and body immediately going back to like, I'm greedy. I'll just use this
yes, of
example
course.
again.
Hmm.
I'm greedy. You're like, oh, that was a pattern that loaded in when I was young. I'm not greedy. I'm perfectly okay.
Hmm. So can you share some of the techniques? And maybe before that, I even should ask, so can you improve emotional intelligence and how?
Yes,
Hmm.
yes, yes, definitely, definitely, definitely. Um, so it's really starting to become aware of your patterns, right?
Hmm.
What are you doing? What kind of people are you attracting? Like oftentimes people, when they want to attract a partner, they always go for, say, bad boys, right? People that they can't depend on. And it's kind of like, oh, so what in me, why do I do this, right? So to kind of start giving the awareness, why do you do this? So journaling is a great way to move through stuff, but also to start becoming aware of what the problem is. Okay, so when I think of having a partner and I don't have one, I become really anxious. What's the emotion behind it?
Hmm.
Right? I become anxious. I'm sad. And then the way that I take my people through it, it's like I rate that on a scale of 1 to 10. Just let me
Hmm.
know, how sad are you? 1 is very little. 10 is like, it's excruciating.
Hmm.
So that they can really tap into that sadness, because most people, what we do is we're afraid to tap into those emotions, into those feelings, because we think we should only think good feelings and good emotions. But to move through an emotion takes less than 2 minutes. So the
Hmm.
best way is to actually to feel it fully and to really let yourself experience that sadness.
So what if I want to? Sorry, I interrupted the technique, but we'll go back to that. What if after experiencing sadness for 2 minutes you still experience it, and if 2 days later you experience it, do you still have to stay with it, or do you,
Yeah,
uh,
I would,
or you stuck?
you move through it really quickly. So
Yeah.
you really allow yourself to fully be in it, like experience the sadness, let yourself feel it. I mean, even maybe see the image, the time that you felt that sad. And then you'll notice that something else comes up. And it's like, oh, is there a thought that comes up? Is
Mhm.
there a body sensation that comes up? Whatever is coming up. So what we call that is content. So your mind has all these things spinning around. So if you take them one by one, what's the emotion that comes up? What's the thought that comes up? Allow yourself to feel it. What's the body sensation? Feel it for half a minute, and then take a breath, let it go. What else comes up? You know, you can tap with it, do the emotional technique, freedom technique with it, and it releases. And
Mhm.
then new things come up. It's like, oh, it's not sadness anymore, but now I'm thinking of this old boyfriend that dumped me. It's like, good. Okay, so think that thought. Think
Mhm.
the old boyfriend dumped me. It's like, good. Thinking the old boyfriend dumped me. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, my body is starting to feel a bit tight here. Feeling that. Take a breath. If you want to tap with
Yeah.
it. Let it go. And then a new new thing comes up, either a thought or an emotion. And
Mhm.
then when we get rid of all of those, the monkey mind just calms. So it's like the same as long-term meditation effect of people that have
Mhm.
been meditating for years. It's
So can I ask you for, I know we didn't ask that in advance, but I hope you don't mind. Can we do an example of tapping through some emotions? And let's take, since we're talking about relationships, we did talk about sex a little bit before, which is also relationship related. Maybe can we maybe take an emotion along the lines of, if you're single and you feel like you're stuck in that situation and you are
Mhm.
maybe worried, or maybe if you are in a relationship, you're stuck to the same pattern that you're not enjoying, like bad boys or something, something along those lines where you feel that you're just playing the same movie over and over again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can take all of you through it.
Yes, let's do it. Guys, we're all going to do it now together.
All right, so I want everyone to close their eyes if that feels good, and just take a deep breath in. And then just tap into whatever emotion gets brought up with, thinking about your perfect relationship. That you don't have that yet. Perhaps you do have it. All right. And then I want you to put your finger on your chest point. Chest point's right here in between.
Here?
Yeah. And just think and then say, even though, whatever emotion it is for you, even though anger or sadness is coming up, I completely love and accept myself.
I completely love and accept myself.
All right, and then we're going to go to the first brow point. It's right there. Yeah. I want you to take a deep breath in and feel that emotion. Take a deep breath in, feel the sadness, feel the anger, whatever the emotion is, really magnify it, make it 100% real. And exhale through your mouth. Let it go. Go to your second brow point here, the outside of your eyebrows. Take a deep breath in, feel that again. So experience it, step into it 100%. Taking a deep breath in through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. And let it go. And take your fingers to under your eyes. We call that the third eye point. Take another deep breath in through your nose. Allow yourself to experience whatever came up. Exhale through your mouth and just let it go. And then notice what's come up. What's the next thing that's come up? So you can tell that this is one layer. So the monkey mind is much less. So maybe contentment is coming up. So you go to your chest point. Tapping uses this one. We use the chest point. Do either, and saying, even though whatever is coming up,
I have such a big snowball of different things that I have to pick something on.
Yeah, okay. So what came up?
Well, I was thinking of anxiety and some insecurities, and we are talking about confidence, obviously. These things come up, all the memories of the things when I felt insecure, and that kind of perpetuated the situation.
Yeah. All right. So put your fingers on your chest point. Even though insecurities are coming up, I completely love and accept myself.
I can love and accept myself.
Good. Put your fingers on your first brow point on one of them. Yeah. Now go ahead and feel that insecurity. Experience that fully. Make it 100% real. Taking a deep breath in through your nose. Exhaling through your mouth. Just letting it go. Go to the outside brow point. Yeah. Again, take a deep breath in. Feel that insecurity. Exhale, let it go. Under your eyes, put your fingers under your eyes. Take a deep breath in. Feel the last remnants of that insecurity. Exhale and just let it go. Putting your fingers down. And tell me what's come up now.
Yeah, I think I'm so curious that I start thinking about other things along the way, and some different, like when we just started with insecurity here, it was one feeling, and then it kind of evolved and changed, and I had other images come up which actually were not specifically, like they touched upon insecurity, but then they opened up doors to something else. Yeah, so it is an interesting process.
So you continue, then you just go, okay, so other thoughts are coming up, but I completely love and accept myself. You go through it again, and until there's nothing that comes up anymore.
Okay, so you go through that, going through.
That's one way of doing it.
and feelings that are coming until you feel like
kind of really calm, and there's like this moment that you're just like, there's nothing coming up anymore. You just kind of want to laugh at yourself. It's like, why was I so worried about stuff?
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you for this technique. It's even like the little bit that we did that was very good experience. So thank you for that. Not just good. I was thinking of other words because I was thinking of how much actually, as I said, like a huge snowball. There's so much attached to this one word, anxiety or insecurity. Yeah, somebody says that was relaxing. I feel relieved. Great. We only did 2 rounds actually. Thank you.
Well, we did next to nothing, but it's what happens is we have so much matter, and then our whole nervous system gets completely tight. And just doing this, and by allowing yourself to feel it, it's like, oh, okay, that wasn't so bad, right? Because that didn't even take 90 seconds, 1 round.
Yeah, it was rather fast and actually quite interesting. Like holding on to that emotion was a little bit of a stretch because it did want to go somewhere else. I want to ask a related question to what we were doing right now. So when it comes to your emotions, how much of the work of processing these emotions is done cognitively in your head, and how much of that is done in your physical body?
Good question. To be really honest, I don't know the percentages, but I know there's a lot in our body. But then the beautiful thing about the beautiful thing about somatic experiencing is where we actually realize so much is stuck in our body. And if you just think about animals, if you think about this little rabbit and it's hopping around and it's going around its own way, and then there's this fox that comes and chases it, wants to eat it, thinking like, yeah, that rabbit, that's great dinner for me. So the rabbit either freezes, like, or it runs, or it fawns, it plays dead, right? Or it fights. Well, it's gonna not win with a fox, right? So this is the trauma response. But what happens even with dogs, or say with the rabbit, it ran so quickly that it got all those endorphins, it got all that stress out of their body. And oftentimes you'll see animals shake after they've been in a situation like that. They shake, and that is completing the trauma cycle. So there is actually stuff that sticks in our body. But say that you and I have had a car accident. I bumped into your car, smash it, civil wise, we come out and say, this is my insurance, can I have your number, I'm really sorry, are you okay? But inside our body we're like, whoa, that was really intense. So there are a lot of modalities that actually take you through how to complete the trauma cycle. So shaking helps, dancing helps, somatic experiencing helps, so that you can actually move that stuff through your body.
So you do need to respond physically also to your emotional traumas.
It'd be good. I think that's the bit where it often gets stuck.
That's very interesting, because I haven't seen any single movie that shows psychotherapy ending in a dance.
True. It's kind of cool, right? But yeah, if you think about, there's TRE, traumatic release exercises, which is all about moving and shaking, and it's very cathartic, sound, movement, all these things, breath.
I love breath, but I do have a guest, Annie. Annie, if you're ready to join us and ask a question. Yes, you are ready. That's awesome. Annie, the floor is yours. Only the microphone isn't yours yet. If you could switch on your microphone. Yes,
yeah,
now it's on. Cool.
So many buttons. Yes. Hello. My question is very easy for me to ask, but the answer, I hope, will allow me to just progress. Basically, I've done a lot of mind-body programs and a lot of work on myself, I would say, and I'm digging deeper and deeper. And I would like to just ask, do I have a chance to heal myself by myself using different techniques and digging deeper? Or at some point, do I really need someone from the outside, like a professional or someone who could guide me?
Beautiful question.
Yeah, thanks for asking it.
Beautiful question. So first of all, bravo for you for healing yourself and doing all this work. So the first thing is you've taken that first step. You are already doing it. You're, I don't know, taking courses, reading books, being in these kind of programs. That oftentimes is enough of a catalyst to get you out of things. Now, it's completely up to you if you want to have more hands-on, say, either one-on-one attention from one specialist, or join a group program where you actually have like a community of other people. Because so often when we have things that happen to us, when someone else said, oh my God, me too, it's like, oh, that the whole shame then goes away. And that is so cathartic already. So for me, it would be like, let's look at your finances. What do you want to invest in it? What can you invest time-wise in it? And what, really listen to yourself. What feels like the right person, the right group? There are so many different groups out there that are also free that you can join and that you can get a lot out of. I would say community is, it speeds up your healing. It speeds up you kind of like quantum leap because someone else has been there, has done it already.
I like that very much. Thank you. That really makes a lot of sense. And I think when I'll be ready for more interaction from the outside or from a teacher or a group, it will come at the right time. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Annie, for joining us and for asking this very important question. I think we don't ask this question, or we don't answer this question enough, because yes, while we provide education for people to take care of their problems on their own, I think what Juliette just said, community makes a huge difference, and the professional guidance as well. Bianca, if we have someone else who wants to join us, I know the questions always start pouring in when I bring up the first person. But meanwhile, I wanted to ask a very simple question, Juliette. So if somebody wants to go on with you, how can they go continue working with you while we have the next guest joining us?
So everyone can find me on Instagram and on Facebook, Juliette Karaman. I have two companies. feelfullyu.com is my company, and then with Trauma Expert, we actually have the Embodied Leadership Academy.com. So we have lots of different courses, ranging from like a 3-week course which is called Feel, where you really get to learn the basics of feeling, and like it's a self-paced program, and we do programs online pretty much every month or so.
Thank you so much. And meanwhile, we have Goddess Nicole Michelle. Hi.
Good morning. Hi, everybody. Juliette, thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you for all of your counseling and all of your gifts that you are giving us today. First of all, it's really crazy because there's so much in my life that I have worked through energetically and spiritually. But I've noticed lately, I just joined Mind Valley and I just had to do things in Zoom where I'm confronting things in my life. And I feel trauma right now, honestly, just wanting to talk to you.
Baby. Okay, take a breath. Hold on a minute, okay? I want to actually acknowledge that.
Thank you.
Don't brush over it. That's a big thing, okay? Beautiful. There you go. Just take a breath. So often we want to just rush to get it out. You took a big step coming on camera.
Thank you.
Acknowledging it. There you
go. In person, I've been in the public eye and I've helped very many people. And Source has gifted me with many gifts and talents for healing myself. But there's something I have, and this is not even why I came on here, but there's a resistance that I have to be on camera, to be filmed, I do not respect social media. Mind Valley is not social media though. It's totally different. That's why I joined and I love everything that you stand for. But being misunderstood on camera, having it defining who we are, when my goal is always pure and 1000% love, to be misinterpreted would be so painful.
It's when we start to glow, like when our light switches on, right? And
Yeah.
people are magnified to us. It's like we're like the magnet, people are drawn to us. There are also people that don't quite like that. Yeah. And I get the things, it's like, you're middle-aged, you're overweight, what are you talking about? Yeah. And it's like,
They're beautiful. They're lying.
and I still have my voice. And that's it. And that's where you kind of look at your emotional intelligence. I'm like, oh, okay, there are all these pain points. You know, one thing you can do is like, where did they come from? Did they actually come from me? Is it from society? Doesn't really matter at the end of the day, because it still hurts. But then it's like, is your message more important than your fear of being hurt?
That is the balance. That's my balance right now that I am looking for, and that I am actively healing in the moment. And some things you touched on today were really powerful for me, because I'm confronting my shadow. And within that, now I've had trauma experiences practically every day. And but I would say I could spend an hour in trauma, but I could spend 24 to 36 hours in bliss, or I could spend 2 hours in trauma. And then, so it's like, it's weird because I'm not depressed, but when I get the trauma, I have this super depressed moment where I have to deal with the issue. Like, I love my shadow, but people still hurt my shadow, and I have to accept that, and I have to understand why still. And
so what life is that you live in this dualistic world, right?
yeah.
And there's good, there's bad, there's your trauma, there's your ecstasy, there's your bliss. Yeah. And the thing is not to kind of like put one on the pedestal and demonize the other, but it's for you to create your capacity. It's to build your capacity. So the work that you're doing, the emotional intelligence, all the other stuff that you're doing, you're actually building your capacity. So you may have a lot of bliss and then have massive grief at the same time, but you can walk with both. You can have both in your life. And it doesn't have to be one or the other. And for me, it's like, I lost my sister and I had massive grief the last 3-4 years. My parents, both of them, my sister, my daughter's boyfriend, and yet I have such bliss in my life and such ecstasy. And it's like, it doesn't have to be one or the other. You don't have to go down one tunnel, but you can really just build your capacity to be with both.
Today, though, hearing you, it confirmed for me that I'm okay, because that's where I'm at in my life right now. And hearing you express it the way you did, let me know that I'm actually doing myself a service instead of a disservice, to just be with those emotions so I can process them, so I can move on, so I don't have those triggers anymore, and I'm not in trauma and not reactionary.
You just don't get stuck, right? You just kind of want to unstuck yourself. It's like, okay, let me feel this stuff and then let's go through them. And then it's like, oh, next time it comes up maybe a little bit, but it's like, oh, that was pretty quick. I can get through it again.
And then the next time, because we have these patterns, we realize that we make better decisions. And we don't even realize we're having this so many of the same experiences over and over. And then we look at ourselves in our maturity and we're like, oh my God, I didn't do that again. I didn't fall into that again. I'm healing. You're such a blessing, both of you. I love you guys. I love Mind Valley. Thank you. I know someone else has questions. I just want to say you're a blessing and your confirmation. And any tools you have for us, any ways we can contact you to continue to grow, please just list them in the chat. I would appreciate anything. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Goddess Nicole. I'll keep you calling you Goddess. For joining and for sharing this experience with all of us. And to be honest, we don't have a lot of time for the next questions. And I think after this kind of interaction, I actually wouldn't want to bring up anyone else, but I do have one last question. We are short on time. I do want to ask one last question, which I think is very much in tune to what we just witnessed. I know that you have this interesting idea, which is a little unusual, but I really resonate with that, about not shunning your painful experiences. I read one of your recent posts about how we, and you just mentioned that, how we demonize certain experiences. And I found it so interesting, this whole concept of actually enjoying the painfulness of certain human experiences. Can you maybe as a closing thought share something on that? Because, you know, when it comes to emotional intelligence, after all, what we are after is how do I suffer less?
Yes. And sometimes we're the ones that are bringing in that suffering, right? Always,
Yes.
always. So especially for me, this last 4 years have been massive grief, and I've allowed myself to feel it and to be really vocal with it. You know, I'd be out in public or leading a course, and all of a sudden tears and snot flies and everything. And then 3 minutes later, I'm laughing. So people are like, are you just kind of like, are you cuckoo? I'm like, no, I'm actually allowing myself to feel all these things, to feel the depth of despair and to be on my knees and to like, oh, feel that pain, because I know then it's not going to last forever. And then whatever life throws me, I can deal with. So that would be my thing. It's like, really allow yourself to feel everything, the joy of life, the crappiness. Sometimes it's not so great. It can be absolutely horrible, but instead of just shoving it under the carpet, feel it, really fully experience it. And that is the only way to move through, because otherwise you're kind of like swimming surface level and you're not diving deep to get to the beauty of life, because it's everything. It's joy, it's ecstasy, it's pain, it's everything. And if not, we numb ourselves out and we kind of like just live a little bit of life. So for me, it's I want to have the full experience of what everything is available to me.
Thank you so much for this beautiful message and for the permission to actually still consider yourself a happy person, even if you have a painful experience. So
absolutely, yeah. And also that's one thing I really wanted to that probably be my ending message. It's like, we all have trauma, but it doesn't need to define us. A lot of people are saying, I'm a trauma survivor. I'm like, we all actually have survived some kind of trauma. So let it just be something that happened. It's that happened to you, but it doesn't define who you are as a person. You can still be super happy and absolutely enjoying life and loving life.
Thank you so much for this wonderful message. Traditionally, I want to ask people who are online right now to leave a heart for my wonderful guests in the chat, and those who are going to watch it later on any other our platform on social media, leave a heart for my wonderful guest, Juliette, under this video. And Juliette, thank you so much for joining me and our tribe here, our community here in Mind Valley. It was a huge pleasure. I really enjoyed watching you talking, especially talking to the two guests who joined us, and this moment where you said, just pause for a minute, don't rush. I think it was like an epiphany for me. So thank you for your kindness, for your warmth, and for giving us permission to be happy despite the trauma.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. It's been wonderful.
Thank you all for joining, and I'll see you next week. Bye.